Good morning, and thank you very much for joining us. I am Iyori Folani. Okay, our guest this morning is Brigadier General Sani Kukasheka Usman, retired. He's the strategic communication expert and the former director of Nigeria Army Public Relations. A fine morning to you, General.
Good morning, and thank you for having me on your program.
Always our pleasure. Okay, then. We wanted to, just tap into your, expertise on the question of banditry and terrorism, which, those two terms have become familiar to most Nigerians. But then this time, we're talking about the resurgence of it. Apparently, there was a lull. We sort of had a break, the armed forces and other people that are combating it. But now there is a resurgence, and we're hearing dark news once again. What would you say, General, is bringing this about?
Well, I think what I want you to understand is the fact that security challenges are always fluid and dynamic. And if you are thinking of resurgence, you also have to look at the, where we were coming from, particularly about 8 years ago or more. We have had instances, this terrorist group, particularly the Boko Haram, as it were, had a effrontery to covet territories of the Federal Republic of Nigeria. And as of 2015, I think they are occupying about 15 local government areas. And now it is not so. And if you recall, almost every symbol of democracy and security has been desecrated. Take, for instance, the attack on the United Nations building in Abuja, which is the federal capital, the seat of power of Nigeria. Of course, Mogadishu Cantonment, otherwise known as Abacha Barracks, and Louis Edet House, where the police headquarters is located, and so on. And you look at the Nyanya Bus Terminal, the Madala Catholic Church, and all the rest of them. Now, as a matter of fact, the number of checkpoints within Abuja, which is the seat of power of the government of Nigeria, were unprecedented. But now no more checkpoints. Yes, we have security challenges. So when you are talking about resurgence, you look at it from that context. And you will have to understand that we have recorded tremendous progress in terms of counter-insurgency and counter-terrorism campaign against the terrorist group of Boko Haram and, of course, their affiliates, ISWAP and Ansarudin. So the problem we are having about security challenges, and unless we face it squarely, there is this lack of synergy in terms of a whole society approach, not just a whole state approach. The response to it mostly was kinetic, the deployment of the armed forces and the security forces that have been doing marvelously well. But when you are dealing with insurgency, and when you are dealing with terrorism, if you are putting it on 100%, the total military effort or the security effort of it is just between 35 to 40%. So what happened to the 60%? And look, unless we go back and deal with the issue of the 60%, the whole society approach will continue to be having this problem. Now, if you look at the Nigerian society, we have 3 tiers of government. You have the federal, you have the state, you have the local government. Now, only 2 are working. The local government system is not working, which is supposed to act as a buffer system dealing with all the security challenges that manifest themselves, that escalate to this extent. Take, for instance, all the security challenges, they belong to a particular state, particular geopolitical region, particular local government, if care is not taken to a particular community or particular district. Now, had it been that the local government system is working, we would have been more proactive dealing with issues before we lump them onto state government. And the channel of communication is always widening. And there is no way you can be there is no way you can have development without security. And unless we have security, and security cannot be guaranteed unless you have a whole society approach in which every citizen, regardless of his or her disposition, has a role to play. And thankfully, we have the national security strategy that outlines responsibilities and duties, but who coordinates that? And to what extent have you empowered the citizen to contribute meaningfully towards the security of this country? So that is why you are looking at it from that perspective. But invariably, we have made substantial progress in terms of security challenges, but there is room for more improvement so that Nigeria will be better secure and so that we have peace, more peace and development in this country. And unless we go back to that, we will just be moving around in cycles.
Well, so as you say, General, in addition to, of course, there are those who constitutionally are charged with engaging with these threats, but you just said in there that until there's a whole societal approach so that everybody has the consciousness of no to this, you just described what we can look forward to. But how about instances where we're surprised? When we talk about terrorism, banditry, we tend to look in certain directions. But only the other day, I think it was yesterday, yeah, I think it was yesterday, the U.S. Secretary of State, put out a statement that a U.S. government convoy was attacked by unknown, people in Anambra. Well, that might have come as a surprise to people because you don't really know what is motivating these people who do those kind of things. One attack, because maybe we'll come to that in relation to what you said earlier, but take the latest instance, perhaps, which is the unknown persons attacking a U.S. government convoy in Anambra. They say they were on the way to, to a U.S. government-sponsored erosion control, project, and then they were attacked. That must have been surprising.
Well, it could be surprising, but I don't think it is. Why? Because if you look at what had been happening, especially in the southeastern part of this country, in fact, people were so afraid, the militant or the secessionist group. You remember the sit-at-home order and, the attacks on public properties, particularly, the electoral body, police stations, and we have lost substantial number of security personnel, military and police, due to the activities of this so-called unknown government. And that is where the problem lies. And, the media in itself has a critical role to play. There is no Nigerian that is unknown. Just like I earlier mentioned, these security challenges emanated from particular community, particular local government, particular state. So why are we living in denial that people are unknown? Now I believe that they have the effrontery to attack foreign nationals, the United States, convoy. Definitely something has to be done. But over time, they have done quite substantial damage, to the extent people were even afraid that the 2023 general election might not hold because of the activities. But thankfully, due to the concerted effort, of the government and, of course, the security forces, and that is why we have to give kudos to the security forces by rising up to the occasion that we had, a hitch-free in terms of security concern of the 2023 general elections. Now, coming back to the motivations and what have you, there is no way the issue of good governance comes into play. Why? Because had it been that, the local government system is working, the issue of corruption is not there, we wouldn't have had all these things. And there is a popular saying among the Hausa community that whenever you see a grown-up old man, a grown-up useless man, so to speak, definitely it is a young, useless man that has grown up. Most of these people, we know them, we know their antecedents over time. And if I may relate it with the banditry and all the kingpins of the banditry and kidnapping gangs in the Northwest, North Central, and so on, were known criminals over time. The society tolerated them, and now the AK-47, and of course modern technology has made their crime more sophisticated as it is. So the same thing with what is happening in the South is they know them. They were a group of youth that were misguided. The society tolerated them, not knowing that eventually, just like anything, everything else in life, there are always development. And that is why when, children start to show some kind of attitude, especially, you tend to correct them, because if care is not taken, it will become a habit and they will think it is the normal thing that they are doing. So invariably, unless we treat such things, and coming back to the issue of, it was when this unfortunate incident happened that claimed the number of precious lives. We have never had such intervention activities by a foreign country in a sovereign state of Nigeria. To what extent have we included even the host community that are benefiting? If care is not taken, the state government was not even adequately informed, talk less of the people that they want to intervene. And of course, I know, I live in the north, in the southeast for 9 years. So I know one of the major problems they have is issue of erosion, which unless we need to really do the best we could to ensure that the problem is solved. And it's a good thing that United States government is assisting in that regard. But to what extent have we been involving the community so that they will take not only taking ownership of such programs, but also participate in terms of security concerns and what have you. And that is what we go back to the issue of the whole society approach, coordination and cooperation. By the time such foreign nationals are doing things, there are 3 tiers of government. The federal, what is the relationship between the federal government and those going? What is the relationship between them and the state government and the local government and the local security forces in those states, Anambra State and what have you? If care is not taken, there is no synergy, no coordination. And unless we take it as a whole that everybody has a role to play and everybody is important in terms of security and developmental projects, then we will continue to have problems.
Okay. Well, thank you, General. And to put that news item in perspective about unknown, assailants in Anambra State attacking the U.S. government convoy. It was a 2-car convoy. The U.S. Department of State put out that there were 4 or 5 Nigeria policemen in there, some staff of the U.S. mission, and it was a 2-car convoy. But just to put it in perspective, because a convoy could be a number of vehicles. But then I take, I see what you've said, that to what extent did we involve the locals, so to speak, in all of this? So that goes back to what you were talking about earlier about, look, we need to have a sort of a holistic approach. And by the way, it was the U.S. Department of State that had labeled the attackers as unknown assailants. And I say that because you said something that we should stop deceiving ourselves. We know a lot of these people. So on that particular question, I can imagine the intelligence people will know, the people in the villages will know, but what does that knowing do for us? Because I like especially your expression that we can't keep on deceiving ourselves. What can be done with the knowledge that we have of people who are, quite frankly, scattering efforts at good governance?
What needs to be done, honestly, I think some steps have been taken. I know that concerted efforts are being made, especially, at consultation level. Take, for instance, at the Nigerian Army Resource Center, I think not even once or twice there were instances of convergence of all stakeholders, especially when you talk about insurgency. And I know that the Nigerian Army Resource Center also carried out a study on some of these contentious issues, what motivates people to be against the state. And of course, Southeast itself was one of the areas visited, and of course recommendations have been made, and not just recommendation, but including implementation strategies. To what extent are we following that is entirely a different thing. But juxtapose that with the requirement of or the directives in the national security strategy. There is supposed to be coordination and synergy of effort, not just among the security agencies, but even among the various components of the Nigerian society. And these are the issues that we need to, up our ante in that regard, because a lot of people usually see a lot of things, but they don't even know whom to relate with, whom to report for the fear of their own lives or safety, and the fact that there is this nonchalant attitude, so to speak, on the part of those responding, that today you have reported a crime, and of course the criminal has been apprehended, but in 2 days' time you will see him on the street, and the next thing he will even target you for elimination simply because of some kind of extraneous variables. Now, we have to invest heavily more on the training, and in fact, not just training, we have to critically evaluate our policing system to make the police up and doing, not in terms of just responsibilities, but we have to think of their training, we have to think of their equipment, and looking at the policing system in the 21st century for a developing state like this. But again, the citizens themselves, there should be continuous security education. It is not just security education. We have to look at the security in the context of the present day dynamics. That an average Nigerian that is hungry, he is insecure. You cannot be talking to him about anything else other than to make him, comfortable. So the issue of good governance also plays a very important role, that Nigerians have to be more empowered economically so that they can contribute meaningfully, not just to national development in terms of, those aspects, but also in terms of security, because they should not be disrupted. So it is supposed to be a whole society approach. Various components of Nigerian society have roles to play. Is it the government? Is it the traditional rulers? Is it the religious leaders? Even public opinion, including the family system. And unless we coordinate all those, and synergize them together, we'll continue to have the problem. And that is why the civilly intelligence we tend to have might not make the desired impact as it were, because you have to empower the people to know whom to report and ensure that their safety is guaranteed, and make sure those responding to those issues are well equipped and they will respond expeditiously. But this is not just enough. We look at our criminal system, criminal justice system. To what extent is the judiciary? And I'm so happy with what a retiring judge was saying, that she wasn't happy about the number of years litigation takes place. So you can imagine that justice is not being served expeditiously. Now, let's even look at what is happening now. Something has happened in this country that has never happened anywhere. That we have, this repentant Boko Haram, almost 100,000 of them. Yes, okay, please. Sorry, General. I'm sorry to interrupt you, but our program is an interactive one, and a viewer called in. So let me take that call, and then we'll resume what you were saying. Good morning, Reverend Dominic in Alimojo.
Good morning, Chiviori. How are you?
Very well, thank you.
Please, Chiviori, please, I want to ask one question.
Sure.
And I don't want you to gloss over it, please, Chiviori. Let General answer this question. Please, please, please. I don't agree with General about all he has said. There's no way we're better off today than 2015. Why? Please, let General answer this question. Is it easier to take a vehicle and run into the US office and shop bombing, or to do jailbreaking in Abuja that happened last year? Which one is easier? It's a general insecurity architecture. Which one is easier, to cause a shop bombing in your office, or to jailbreak and take all their followers and go away in the seat of power in Abuja? Is it easier?
Reverend, stay with us. Stay with us, please. General, did you hear that question clearly? Because please, unless you put it in a perspective, but it seems as if he was shouting. I was just hearing he's there in Abuja. I'm trying to, Reverend Dominic, could you take it a bit more slowly, please? You were saying which is easier?
Easier to take a vehicle with bomb and run into a UN house, or can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing as you are speaking now. Please continue.
Okay. Which one is easier, to take a vehicle and run into a UN office in Abuja as a suicide bombing, or to cause a jailbreak or a jailbreak. Can you understand the question now?
Okay, are you talking about the UN facility in Abuja that was attacked?
Yes, which one is more easy? I'm asking General. In security architecture,
okay,
is it easier to attack a UN office,
okay,
or for a jailbreak?
All right then. Okay. Thank you very much, Reverend Dominic.
If I may answer you directly, first and foremost, I'm not a criminal and neither am I a terrorist. So much as we tend to study their mindset and all the rest, I would know which one is easier for the criminal elements, you know. But when you look at it from this perspective, it depends on what they wanted to achieve. And of course, you know, they said publicity is the oxidants of terrorism. And by attacking the UN building, definitely they are sending a message not just to the Nigerian authorities, but to the whole world and international community that the so-called UN, that is supposed to be the police of the world, is also vulnerable. And they will do everything possible to attack it. That is issue number one. Then, of course, when you look at the issue of, you know, attacking a medium correctional facility, just like what happened in Abuja some time back, you look at the motivation also. And that is where the criminal justice system comes into play. We have instances of people awaiting trial and convicted people all lumped up in a kind of medium security prison and correctional facility. And I don't think it is correct. Those people that are high-profile prisoners should be taken elsewhere. They should not be mixed up with people that are awaiting trial, especially those that have committed minor offenses. In fact, they are being detained on basis of suspicion, because we are a democratic society that respects the tenets of the rule of law. Unless a competent court of jurisdiction have found you guilty, you are still a suspect or an accused, as the case may be. And we know what transpired in those instances. Part of the, and that is where the issue of coordination, the issue of intelligence come into play. There were complaints over time by the DSS that sometimes they will be tracing phone calls to the four walls of a prison facility, and yet they will hit a brick wall. And some days before that unfortunate incident, it may interest you to know, they carried out a kind of sweep. You can be, you'll be surprised to know the number of mobile telephone handsets that were recovered. Who took those telephone handsets to that place? What happened to monitoring and evaluation? What happened to, regular checks and adherence to, the rules and the rules in, in that facility? And now again, there were complaints that the facility was encroached by members of the public, that people who had no business to be at the, correctional facilities, now they pass through on a daily basis because you cannot stop them from going to their residential. Unlike areas, in other countries, correctional facilities are just, far away from living quarters of the society. So there are so many things. So I honestly, I wouldn't know which is easier, unless the terrorists, when you ask them, the surviving ones, maybe they will tell you. But of course, when you look at the motivation, that will give you an answer to that question.
Okay, if there's time, we can return to it, because whereas I can't read Reverend Dominic's mind, I wonder if it related to instances like the UN building at the time was taken by surprise, it was attacked, and we have heard of, sometimes the American military when they're in foreign land or so. I think in Saudi Arabia or so, we heard that there was an attempt to hit them, to hit their formation, but they foiled this attempt, even though it was a suicide attempt. So I wonder, as I said, I can't read his mind. I wonder if his question related to how fortified, how well prepared are we for these attacks? But then again, as I said, I can't read his mind. But in the meantime, let me go to James, who has called in from Kaduna. Good morning, James.
Hello.
James, can you hear us? We're ready for you now. Please go ahead. Well, it looks like there's some problem.
Morning.
Oh, okay, good morning. Let's try.
Good morning.
Good morning, James. Go ahead. Go ahead and speak, if you will.
I'm speaking on the attack on the Chia last 3 weeks ago. Good morning. I'm speaking on attack on Kachia.
Good morning.
Okay. The attack on Kachia, that many people are being kidnapped and nobody says anything.
Okay, the attack on Kachia. Okay.
We don't even know how many people are being kidnapped and how many people are being rescued.
Okay.
So we haven't heard from anything, and nothing has been shown on the TV or any platform of social media. But
you, as a resident, you are aware.
Yes, to show that, okay, something has happened like that. So we haven't heard anything from the national and also the platform of internet.
Okay, James, I think I got your question. General, there you go. You just heard him. Why haven't we heard as much?
Yeah, I heard him quite right. And I really commiserate and sympathize with not only him, but the people that were affected by that unfortunate incident. And that is the problem. Let's even go back to what happened to in Anambra State 2 days ago. Yes. We started getting the information. In fact, I belong to a particular WhatsApp group. Somebody raised the issue, and somebody tried to downplay it that he was a harbinger of trouble and all the rest. But eventually, it came to pass. But I can rest assure you, the Americans, as far away as they are, they were the first to react as compared to our own Nigerian, not even the Nigerian media or Nigerian authority. And that is why it is very important that everyone has a role to play. First and foremost, the citizen, when he or she hears or sees anything, he should also be able to report. Then people, the appropriate authorities have to respond accordingly. And the media have a tremendous role to play, in bringing out these atrocities as they occur. Not that simply because you are interested, it belongs to something happened that you have a vested interest in, you publicize it or escalate it as the case may be. No, it should be treated equally. But then at the same time, we have to give kudos to the authorities of Kaduna State, simply because over time, on quarterly basis, on routinely basis, whenever things of that nature happen, they always come out, to brief the public. I know that the Commissioner for Internal Security and Home Affairs has always been very proactive. And I wonder why such unfortunate incident should have slipped him. And that is where the reporting system is equally very important, that whenever we see things or we hear things, we are supposed to report. There are even time-tested traditional chain of command, community leaders, traditional rulers, as the case may be, who are always there with the people and who relate with the, local authorities, be it the divisional police officer, the state commissioner, or even the state director of security, and so on and so forth.
Okay, welcome back then. And our guest is Brigadier General Sani Kukasheka Usman, retired. He's a strategic communications expert and former director of the Nigeria Army Public Relations. In the meantime, when we went on break, General, Kesandu in Owerri called in. So let me take his question. Good morning, Kesandu.
Good morning, Uncle Yori, and good morning to the General.
Yes, thank you. Good morning,
I so much appreciate. Uncle Yori, I want to say, and I just want to ask the General a few questions while I also make a statement.
Okay.
General, sir, at this time, because over the time this present administration has actually told us how they are going to name those responsible for this. Because, sir, I strongly believe that these guys cannot be having these sophisticated weapons and having these attacks they're having if they do not have people behind them who give them arms, that provide them with food, and before they now collect ransom. Sir, what is actually holding the government from actually publishing the names of those behind this and arresting them and taking them to court for justice to take its full course? And secondly, sir, do you believe that this whole terrorism thing and act of banditry in Nigeria has something to do with politics? Are there politicians in Nigeria that you think that are responsible? Because a former head of state, military head of state, once said in this country that when a soldier lasts for more than 24 hours, there are people we should hold responsible. So what is your take, sir, on this? Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kesandu. So, General, over to you.
Well, first and foremost, you see, every day the issue of political will is equally very important in governance. And given the context of Nigerian society, we have to emphasize on the issue of rule of law and strengthening our institutions and criminal justice system so that whoever commits infraction regardless of magnitude, the system will take care of him or her. But when you have more or less like a divided society, the perception of issues, you know, we're working at cross purposes from with each other, you have the problem that we are having now. And that is why the emphasis should be on the whole society approach, whereby the government or whoever that is statutorily responsible for carrying out a particular duty or function, if he or she felt, the system will deal with him. And of course, the society as it is also have a tremendous role to play by bringing out things to the fore and ensuring that such is done. Now, that is where I think we need to improve. We have done so much in terms of, ensuring coordination, cooperation, and synergy of efforts among the components of the Nigerian security architecture. It has to be the same with the Nigerian society. And sometimes we allude to all these things because we fail to really educate Nigerians on the nuances of democratic governance and the bureaucracy involved during the Abdulsalami transition period. I know for the armed forces, there was a 15-year transformation program, you know, between 2015 up to 2000, in which issues, attitudinal change and all the rest, although people tend to say that it has not been carried out to the letter, but the argument here is that you cannot in any way transform in isolation with the Nigerian society, because the military as it is also part and parcel of the Nigerian society. And unless we go back and reorient so that people will understand that they have enormous power and they have enormous role, enormous power in the sense that they hold their leaders accountable and enormous role to play because everything revolves around people that they have to contribute also. So basically that is it. I don't speak for the government in terms of that issue. Then as regards to the issue of politicians or other components of Nigerian society having a role in the security challenges, of course you cannot rule out the issue of the war economy that is associated with complex situations. And I give you an example. Just like you made mention of the kidnapper. Some of us that come from the rural communities, we grew up in a system, in a society where we know virtually almost everybody. Even if you left home for 10, 15 years, by the time they told you a particular family, you know what they are capable of doing or what they are not capable of doing. Most of these criminal elements in the society, they were notorious elements. Eventually, the society tolerated them to the extent they grow up to what they are now. Now,
okay,
one moment, sir.
One moment, sir. I beg your pardon.
People
sustain. A viewer has been holding on. I'm so sorry. A viewer has been holding on for quite a long while. So you return. As it is, we lost him. So this gives me a chance to interject with some other area that I need a clarification on. Because
before you do that, please, can I learn in respect of this war economy concept? Because a lot of people have a role to play.
Go ahead,
for instance, yes, the people that supply them weapons, the informants. And I don't believe an average Fulani man, so to speak, or herdsman, will be moving about in the bush with 5 to 10 million naira. You, as you are, moving with even 500,000 on your body on the streets of Lagos is a bit dangerous, talk less of having, millions of naira with you in the bush. So who invests that money? Who is the person that always acts as a go between, negotiating for ransom. So a lot of people tend to benefit. Of course, you remember the fact that there were allegations some of these people were armed simply because of political expediency. So it is not just the politicians. A lot of Nigerians have, unfortunately, role to play in the escalation of this complex situation. And unless we look at it critically and make sure that these people are fished out, these people that are benefiting from it, then we will continue to have problems. We have had instances, people that have never seen certain amount of money in their lives, suddenly you see them building houses, suddenly you see them with flashy cars, their lifestyles have changed, and you don't have the moral courage to ask why. So these are the issues. And even if you ask why, you will be seen as one of those people that are, kind of deviant or something like that. Unless we go back to those issues, I think we'll still be having problems.
You raised some very interesting points, General. Maybe we'll be able to touch on some of them. Especially there's one I wanted to touch on when you spoke about the military, the police, in fact, the entire security architecture. They're part of the Nigerian society. But let me not keep Mazi Okorafor waiting anymore. Good morning, Mazi Okorafor.
Good morning, Sayori. Good morning, our guest. Yes, Mazi Okorafor. You see, African continent is facing a serious breakdown of peace because of terrorism. You see, when the former British Prime Minister came to Nigeria in Lagos, after the he said, all these things you are calling these insurgents, government, or no, whether government or firemen, as you will call them, that all of them are terrorists. Terrorists. In Nigeria, Nigerian states refuse to fight terrorism squarely. Because why am I saying states are the main actors. How do states are the main actors? Look at the local government authorities. See what is happening in local government. People cannot go to farm. That is why the scarcity of food in the market, cost of living very high. How do we solve this? That's what we should tell about. We should go to the causes. The security men are there. We should go down to all this issue of drones. I was sitting down when I was watching what they're showing that they say drone you use your phone. That's to monitor. How does it operate? As I was this is now going to a high level that we are still using all this moving around, carrying soldiers. You don't need soldiers around to bring everything around. The drone are there. How much does the drone cost? Bring in people, young boys and young girls, train them, let them make use of drone and get this thing squarely. That is only because fighting terrorism now is purely digital. It's no longer analog. Let us face it. I saw the army, they gave the soldiers a bicycle. I said, are they going to use bicycle and fight terrorism inside the market or inside the bush? I said, okay, congratulations. But do you know one thing? The Sudan, Mali, this is where they have the highest, the hardest, we are talking about El Shabaab, the hardest boys now that they are only just destroyed. They are not interested. Now you ask yourself, now what is happening in Ukraine and Russia? You see, for people hired themselves to come back to Africa to fight, can't you prevent all this? You see, all these loopholes, the environment is so porous. That is why now we should be thinking about how do these ammunitions come to Nigeria?
Okay.
How?
All right.
Yes. If we can't stop it, there is no way we can fight terrorism.
Okay. Thank you very much, Mazi Okorafor, and also for holding on all that while. In fact, Mazi Okorafor went to the extent of calling in again when the call dropped. Now, General, what you were saying there, when President Muhammadu Buhari, whose tenure will be wrapping up, is in the process of wrapping up right now, and by the May 29th, he will be handing over. Before he came, Nigerians actually were jubilant in talking about security because that's where expertise is with the military, and him being such an experienced person in the military, one felt that he would know all the nooks and crannies, and Nigeria was in for a good time because we had a former military general as our president. In the event, it didn't quite pan out like that. Maybe, is there an opportunity now that there will be a change of guard come the 29th of April to look at things differently, or are we just condemned to, if a military general couldn't really tackle this problem, what hope does anybody else have? or is that too simplistic a way to put it?
Well, first and foremost, I would like to thank Mazi Okorako. And then secondly, I want you to understand that yes, he's quite right about the use of technology in dealing with the security challenges that we are having. And that is why I made mention of, equipping, training the police and the other security agencies, and to even ask to what extent have we invested in our policing system over the time. But I can rest assure you the government has been doing marvelously well in terms of equipping the armed forces, the security forces, particularly the armed forces. And I know precisely for the Nigerian Army, the Nigerian Navy, to the point that they have improved the maritime environment, as it were, and enhancing our blue economy. And now they have even started constructing ships locally. As for the Nigerian Air Force, we wouldn't have had, the successes that we have had if not because of the Super Tucanos and, of course, unmanned aerial vehicles that they have in their holding. And that is why, if you recall back, sometimes the government had to designate the bandits and the kidnappers as terrorists, because we have some Nigerians that are also concerned about human rights, that they are Nigerians, but they seems not to be on the same page with us in terms of the security challenges that we have. Because we have had instances, a Nigerian will write to either United States government or the United Nations against his own Nigerian state based on certain things. And of course, that is why they have to design them, those kind of terrorists, to warrant the use of such high caliber weapons on them. So that is it. So, and they are doing very well. Then, unless again we stop working at cross purposes, we will continue to have that problem. And that is why the whole society approach, so that Nigerians will stop politicizing security issues. Let us understand that, look, unless we put our heads together to deal with these issues, it will continue to be haunting us. Now, about hope and expectations.
I'm so sorry, General.
I can rest assure you
General. I'm so sorry, General. I beg your pardon. I really am sorry. But Ada in Jos has called in. And
in Jos.
Good morning, Ada. Please go ahead.
Good morning. Good morning to your guest. Yori, let me tell you something. I don't even believe that there was a decline. The resurgence, I mean, there's always been this insecurity. So it's not a question of resurgence. Lack of political will to deal with insecurity, fiscal federalism, the structure, the way it is going to be difficult. So it's not about whether a general became our president or what. If Ashwati comes in and he doesn't practice this fiscal federalism, he's been singing like a song, just like APC did, the Buhari administration, and yet they jettisoned it. We are still going to have the same problem. So I think security, if we have the fiscal federalism, it will trickle down to the local government. Most criminal actions are local.
Okay.
And then security can also be tackled from a socio-economic viewpoint. You understand? So let them cut down the cost of government. Let them pay halt to all these their hardship allowance or whatever allowances, and face good governance.
Okay.
All the same, let's not give us Nigeria.
Thank you very much, Ada, for calling in. General, a point you made earlier that the military and the police, whoever else is concerned with security, these people are also part of the Nigerian society. But you know, General, what the Nigerian society is like, that these people are a part of. Professionally, there's no quarrel. These people know their job. They are highly trained. But the fact that the society doesn't even know that it can trust our security personnel. I've often heard, see something, say something. Well, a lot of Nigerians know that you got to look at that advice with caution. You see something, you say something. The same architecture could actually let the bad guys know who said something that has led to the trouble that they have now. So that's why I try to separate between professionalism. Yep, they're professionals, they know how to go about their job. But is it a psychological one where they won't take care of the very ordinary bloody civilian that is contributing to their efforts?
Well, I don't speak for them, but the truth is that, you see, Nigeria is such a complex society, and dealing with issues, especially about security, is equally very, very complex. And more so, it kept on evolving. And remember the fact that due to the globalizations, there is this copycat syndrome and influence of foreign culture because of the technology and all the rest of the thing. And that is where we really need to go back to the drawing board, that beyond we the people, what does Nigeria aspire to be? You know, what is it that we are all, you know, on concert with in terms of our media system, in terms of security, and in terms of other value system? And unless we stop, you know, working at cross purposes, we'll continue to have problems. Now, let's look at it. What is the duration of the training at the Nigerian Defense Academy? You know, the ground training group and the various training institutions of the police and the armed forces. The duration is the same. But the value system of Nigerians agree that they have been, you know, changing their curriculum and what have you. But the value system of the Nigerian society has changed. Take, for instance, again, initially there was no need for any psychological test if you are enlisting as a...
Okay, well, we lost the general there briefly, I hope, momentarily, but I think he was just about to sort of explain to us that the finely trained military personnel, soldier, you know, airman, you know, or Navy man. Okay, General, you're back. You went momentarily. So
I'm so surprised. Actually, I was hearing you all through, except for a moment, you know, when you saw the color. So what I was trying to say is that the value system of the Nigerian society has changed, and the security forces are trying to also meet up with the change in value system. You know, and I was talking about initially there was no need. In the days that we enlisted, there wasn't a need for any psychological, you know, test for us, because we have had a wonderful upbringing. So the military just built on those value systems, you know, in secondary school. Even if you attended, you know, both day secondary school or high school as it is, because in those days it is even much better for you to be reported to a principal than to be reported to the principal, because the discipline, you know, the sense of, you know, responsibility was much higher. But now, the psychological test has to be, you know, brought in. And I will give you an example. Some time back, a particular individual whose son was disqualified from enlisting into the army, he was furious and he wanted to know why. And eventually he was, you know, they were so kind enough, they brought him and brought the son. And they said, look, your son has been a substance abuser for many years. And lo and behold, that he has been taking cannabis for the past 3 years, and the father did not know. Not till when the boy started telling him that, look, on the day, so date, you kept so amount of money. I was the one who stole it. I did this, I did that. And the man broke into tears. And there are so many parents like that. Sometimes it is not their fault. Sometimes most of us parents also encourage or indulge this our children. And that is what the military had to contend with in terms of training. And the very day you manage somebody as a cadet in the academy, you will manage him up to general. So people have to understand that value system that is equally very important about our society, and that is exactly what you are having now, as it were. I'm not saying the quality of training has diminished, no, but this is the kind of challenge that we go through.
The world is changing.
The same thing with the university system. Several people, I believe even in your office you have corpus deployed to you. You look at the corpus that were under you 10 years ago and the corpus deployed to you nowadays. So these are the issues that we have to take into consideration. And that is why the Nigerian society has to come out. Every country, every nation, they have their value system. They have things that they cherish, that you can say this. Now, Nigerian society, we have traveled outside. They will say, look, when you say Nigeria, they will say football, Okocha, and the rest of them. Now, we are even the jollof rice of countries have taken it away from us. So, what is it? What are those value systems that we have to cherish, that the world will look up to us? And remember, there was a time, in fact, who was it, that was saying, look, they look up to Nigeria. I think we are discussing about the electoral process and what have you. They said, look, most of these African countries, they are copying from us. So you have to really be there, not only for yourself, for your family, for your country, for the larger part of the world society, so that people will appreciate and understand. And it comes with a lot of inconveniences, a lot of sacrifices, a lot of responsibilities.
I beg your pardon, General. But you know, the time and our producers are not Democrats, so I'm so sorry, but we're going to have to leave it there. But thank you. Thank you very much.
They should learn to be Democrats.
Indeed. Thank you very much, General, for coming on our program this morning. I appreciate your, sharing your knowledge with us. Okay, so that's our program today then. Please join us tomorrow.
Thank you so much.
I am Yori Folani. Bye-bye for now.